Hey, you guys. Welcome back to Crime Immemorial. In 1984, a little girl in Canada vanished shortly after getting off the school bus one afternoon and would be found murdered months later. A man was eventually convicted of the crime, but DNA exonerated him after he had served more than 18 months in prison. The case then remained unsolved for decades until very recent developments finally put the tragic case to bed. This is the case of Christine Jessop. It was October 3rd, 1984, and 9-year-old Christine Jessop hopped off the school bus at around 3:30 p.m. Neither her parents nor her brother Kenny was home. Her father was still at work, and her mother had taken Kenny to the dentist. They expected to be home at 4, and Christine's mother had told the girl to wait in the house for them to get back. Christine, though, apparently had other plans. She and her friend, Leslie Chipman, had agreed to meet up at nearby Queensville Park with their dolls at 4, and before setting out, Christine picked up her family's mail, left it on the kitchen table along with her school book bag, then walked to a convenience store on the corner to buy some gum. She was seen there between 3:45 and 3:50 p.m. by both the proprietor of the store and by a customer named Robert Atkinson, who told police she had been in the shop holding her recorder. Leslie went to the park as planned, but Christine never showed up to meet her. Concerned, Leslie went back home and phoned the Jessop house at around 10 minutes past 4, but got no answer. She called again at 4:20, and this time Christine's brother Kenny answered, having just arrived home from the dentist, but Christine wasn't there. Family and friends fanned out across the neighborhood, but found no sign of her, at which point they reported her disappearance to police. The authorities likewise had no luck in locating the child, though after questioning residents of the area, they thought they might have a suspect in the abduction, a 23-year-old neighbor named Guy Paul Morin. According to witnesses, Morin was a strange, reclusive young man who kept bees and played in a band. Though he had a girlfriend and a steady job, neighbors thought it odd that he never went to pubs, as most other young men his age did, and detectives' alarm bells were set off by his stoic behavior under interrogation. Further, a police dog tasked with searching Morin's car apparently indicated to handlers that Christine had been in the vehicle. Though questioning of Morin continued, the case stagnated for the following 3 months, until a grim find forced the proceedings from a missing persons inquiry to a homicide investigation. On the last day of 1984, the decomposed body of 9-year-old Christine Jessop, last seen at a convenience store near her home in Queensville, Ontario, Canada, was found in a wooded area approximately 30 miles from her last known location. She had been raped and stabbed multiple times. Semen was recovered from the child's underwear, but as DNA testing was still very much in its infancy in 1984, police could do nothing but store the evidence and hope that better technology would soon be able to confirm the identity of the killer. In the meantime, though, investigators were fairly convinced that Guy Paul Morin was the most likely suspect, despite him having a solid alibi for the time of the homicide, and they arrested him a few months after Christine's remains were recovered. At his trial, a forensic technician claimed that red fibers found in Morin's car had come from Christine's sweater. Further circumstantial evidence was given by 2 inmates at the jail where Morin had been held, who told the assembled jurors that Morin had confessed the murder to them. Morin was actually acquitted at the first trial, the judge citing lack of compelling evidence, but the Crown appealed the verdict, and Morin stood trial again in 1992, at which point he was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. That wasn't the end of the story, however. 3 years later, in 1995, a DNA test was performed on the pair of Christine's underwear that had been recovered from the scene, and the profile of the killer did not match Guy Paul Morin. He was released after spending approximately 18 months in Kingston Penitentiary, and eventually won more than $1 million settlement from the government of Ontario for his wrongful conviction. But if Guy Paul Morin didn't kill Christine Jessop, then who did? The question remained open for years. Other suspects were notably difficult to come by, though in 2018, a private investigator named Jay Nickel told the press that he was looking into a man called Richard Stanley James, who was arrested less than a month after Christine's disappearance for abducting a 6-year-old girl named Lynn Ferguson from the parking lot of a convenience store. The little girl was ultimately not harmed, as James's truck broke down and he let his victim go. But it seems significant that James appeared to be driving toward the town of Sonia, not far from where Christine's body ultimately turned up. Lynn Ferguson also told police that the kidnapper had lured her into his vehicle by telling her that he had lost his puppy and would give her $2 to help him look for it. In 2020, however, the murder of Christine Jessop was, at long last, definitively solved as a result of diligent investigative work and a DNA genealogy lab, which built a familial lineage from the killer's preserved sample taken in 1984. In October of 2020, authorities announced that the suspect was a man known to the family, a neighbor named Calvin Hoover, who was 28 years old at the time of the crime. In 1984, Hoover's wife worked with Christine Jessop's father, and Christine and her brother would often play with the Hoover children, though Kenny Jessop told the media that though he remembered Hoover's wife, he didn't particularly remember Calvin, the man who allegedly murdered his sister. The family had been hoping for some closure in the form of justice, and perhaps a chance to confront Christine's suspected killer. But this was ultimately not to be, as Calvin Hoover had died by his own hand in 2015. Despite this, the Jessop family, as well as the wrongfully convicted Guy Paul Morin, have expressed relief and gratitude at the long-sought-after resolution of the case, with Kenny Jessop in particular calling the solving of the murder an absolute miracle. Thank you, as always, for watching. Remember to like, share, and comment if you enjoy the content, and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also, don't forget to drop by crimeimmemorial.com, where I post lots more written content about unsolved murders and occasional updates on cold cases. I'll see you guys again on the next one.